All right, I'm the Sustainability Lead here at Milton Keynes College. I'm Lauren Gallyot and I'm here with our friend Steve. This is a video for Green Careers Week and we'll start by just finding out a little bit more about yourself, Steve, and your role and what you do.
Right, well, my name's Steve Frampton. I am currently the CEO of SS4FE's Sustainability Support for Further Education. It's a not-for-profit and we sponsor student awards and competitions in this space, mainly in the United Kingdom, not least a competition in the East Midlands, but also in Kenya and some overseas locations as well. My background is previously I was a college principal at Portsmouth. I was also the AOC president for 2 years. And I've worked as the AOC Sustainability Consultant. And I'm chair of a number of things in the mental health area, not least charities on eco-anxiety, and also sport and football as well.
I wonder actually, Steve, if you could expand a little bit on why education and sustainability are so important to consider together.
Yeah, and I think when I'm talking about education, I'm talking about education from the primary, the secondary, the FE, and into the university, and also the adult education sector. Because we've heard some inspirational people talk today about how powerful education can be as a vehicle for change in all those arenas. It's what primary school pupils will take home and talk about with their parents. It's what adults will go back and talk about with their children and their families and their grandparents, so their grandchildren. So I think it's the only vehicle that has the ability to get to all those audiences. But I think we've also got to look at how we can use music and culture and cinema, and also how we can use sport, in particularly mass participation sports like football, therefore things like pledge ball, to get in and reach audiences that we're not able to do conventionally.
And how did you sort of end up coming into the sustainability area?
I grew up on the Dorset coast, so I did voluntary work when I was in my teens and I was surrounded by the environment. So I grew up in a very, very fortunate place. So I did some work for various environmental charities and was an active member of Greenpeace, working on their integrated transport strategy when I was 18. I was very lucky when I went to university and I did a degree in environmental subjects. I did degrees in geography, archaeology and geology, and then I decided to pursue a career in teaching, not least because I had a sporting injury. So I got my PGCE and I've worked for 40 years in the FE sector as a lecturer right the way through to being a principal and then the AOC president. So I've always taught in the sphere of geology, archaeology and geography, and I became a chief examiner for something called People, Environment, Geography, which is exactly what the world is that we're in at the moment, really.
So you are obviously working very specifically within education, within further education. What do you see as some of the sort of key sustainability challenges for the industry?
Well, it's interesting that we're in Morley College today with a group of FE colleges, because they've almost answered that themselves this afternoon. And I wrote down in my notes, I think consistency of national government policy. This isn't a political point, but I think there's been significant change between the political administrations and sometimes even within a political administration. I mean, we've seen Theresa May, haven't we, said we shouldn't be rowing back on all the green initiatives that she started, and rarely do I praise Boris, but he continued. And now we're looking at a very different sort of regime potentially going forward with less commitment to the green agenda and green skills, which I think is appalling. But colleges face massive challenges because I think of this lack of consistency of policy, but also I think around the funding to support those initiatives. I think secondly, I think we're working in a very difficult and challenging international arena at the moment. You've only got to look at the changes that are taking place across the pond, really, and how, although Trump is succeeding perhaps in his Middle Eastern policies for peace, certainly I think his disrespect for the green agenda, unlike the government in this country, and that's an apolitical point, but even the King and his commitment to the green agenda and the green skills agenda. So I think there's international challenges, and the rise of populism doesn't really help this, I think, because there aren't simple knee-jerk solutions to this, but it's scientific truth, and we ought to be respecting that, particularly in the light of the report that came out yesterday. I think also the lack of available high-quality training to support staff in the education sector with this agenda. It's improving all the time, but how can we expect quality education if we're not investing in training in the staff that are going to deliver all of that. So I think there's that. I think there was a lack of resources. Ironically now, I think there's almost a plethora of resources, and it's difficult sometimes to find your way through all of the different ones that exist. But there are great organisations like the EAUC, the Environmental Alliance for Universities and Colleges, to help institutions. And there's wonderful organisations like SOS, Students Organising for Sustainability, and Unlock, that can help students in this space drive it forward. I think my biggest worry though going forward is going to be the impact that AI is going to have on our institutions and the world that we're giving in. Not least, there was an article in the press yesterday that says that this new green data centre that's going to open in Edinburgh will have the same carbon footprint as 100,000 houses or the whole of Edinburgh Airport. So I think we're moving at pace, but there's going to be some new challenges that are going to come in. And the way that we depend as colleges on our IT and digital networks, and increasingly on AI as well, is going to pose some challenges for us all.
And you mentioned some of those challenges. I wonder if you could expand maybe on some of the actions that you have been seeing perhaps in the industry to tackle some of them.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, I think we were encouraged not to be a society, but this is going to need collaborative, cultural, societal actions in order to tackle it. No one institution, no one person, no one group is going to be able to tackle this agenda on their own. So I think it's around putting collaborative partners together to work on this collectively, collaboratively, and also involve their communities and their students in the process. And we've been privileged today to be working with 6 other colleges in a network where we shared best practice, and we've committed to moving the agenda forward together and holding each other to account to do it. I think what we've got to avoid is it being a competitive agenda, because that isn't going to help anybody. And we have a sort of history of that, really. I think we need more training and better networking between college groups and education groups. I think we need more training and access to high quality curriculum in the broader sense of the word for students, and that could include carbon literacy, but it could also include the Environment Leaders Award and some of the short courses that are available in some other areas. And I think also we need to appreciate that there can be a healthy element of competition within institutions, and therefore I think things like Pledge Ball, which uses football as a vehicle to get people to look at their carbon footprint and see how they can change their behaviours and understand the impact it can make. And I think also Planet Earth Games is another wonderful thing for colleges and students to get involved in, because I think there's a healthy competition here, which is around you challenging yourself to improve your behaviours and modify your actions, and then you can see what an impact that you can make.
Brilliant. What do you think they need to know in order to, whenever they go into work themselves, to contribute to all of this?
Yeah, I think what we've got to watch is not to be didactic and finger wagging, and also it to be an entirely negative agenda. I think there's a danger because of students accessing undiluted gloom and doom content through social media, that it can be a hopeless agenda. And I work in an area where I've seen people with severe eco-anxiety. So I think what we need to do is to keep it positive and hopeful and action orientated. We need to be able to give them a good, relevant education, but we need to give them opportunities to contribute and make a difference. And I think that's what the colleges, and particularly your own college, has done. Give people the facilities to educate themselves, get more training, develop their skills. Use the Green Careers Weeks as an opportunity to show them the diversity of opportunities that are there, and challenge this rhetoric that they may pick up from social media that it's not real, there's a real climate crisis, and certainly to be encouraged by the fact that there will be real jobs, dark green, light green and medium green, in this economy that we're in. So to be very optimistic and positive. And I think also to reward them as well. Have internal college competitions that we reward, give them opportunities to compete with their peers and share their best practice with people of their own age working across in neighbouring areas, really. But I think it's keep it optimistic, keep it hopeful, because there are very, very real jobs for all, and we need to make sure we're giving our young people the skills to do that. And I think sometimes they're called softer skills, which is stupid, because these are some of the hardest skills to do. Cooperate, teamwork, work alongside others, presentation skills, etc. But those are the real employability skills that everybody in this space is going to want to access.